James Green is at the Emirates for us this morning. We can join him live now. Good to see you, James. So Ezri Konsa is one that we know Arsenal are closing in on. Could we see him get an unveiling before kick-off tonight?
Good morning to you, Hannah. It's very possible. We know that the deal was agreed in the week between Arsenal and Aston Villa for the £51 million signing of Ezri Konsa, England international, vast experience, 28-year-old. And Mikel Arteta yesterday would be drawn into mentioning his name as it's not officially signed yet. That's always something he does. He doesn't speak about players that aren't an official Arsenal player, but he did mention that with William Saliba's longer-term injury, the fact that Jurriën Timber is still what he described as weeks away last week, that there was potentially a gap for another personnel in that defence. And, well, someone like Ezri Konsa, it brings a vast amount of experience and quality to a backline that's already full of quality. We saw how good they were last season, but the strength of that defence, if you break it down, you look and you go, well, Ben White and Jurriën Timber on the right side of defence, right back, Ezri Konsa who can play there, William Saliba, Gabriel, Ricardo Calafiori, Piero Nkapia, who they signed on a permanent basis this summer after a terrific first season. That defence looks frighteningly strong, deep, ready to compete on all fronts. So it's a possibility if the player's completed his medical and they get everything processed and signed so that they can unveil him tonight. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But with Arsenal, they've been active in the market. Josh Kroenke said straight after the season ended that, we've got to keep going. Despite being on top, we've got to maintain that and we've got to keep improving because other teams are doing that. And we're seeing them improve, bringing a third-choice goalkeeper, Nicolas Meunier. As I mentioned, Piero Nkapia, Christos Solis has come in on the left-hand side, who's started very, very well, certainly in pre-season, and put up a great performance in the Community Shield. And a big signing in the middle of the park in Bruno Guimaraes too. That leaves potentially one attacker that we know Arsenal still looking at. We were looking at Vinicius Junior before he committed to Real Madrid. Julian Alvarez is a name that keeps on cropping up, as does Kenan Yildiz, the attacker at Juventus. Vast experience for a 19-year-old. He is 30-plus caps for Turkey already, nearly 100 appearances for Juventus at just 19. But it's whether they can prize those players away, and that can improve the quality of the side. But they've certainly done so already. But Mikel Arteta said yesterday, we are still in the market. We'll continue to look in the market. And if we can improve the side and evolve the side better, then we certainly will be in a position to do so.
How about potential outgoings, James? Will Arteta need to move any players on?
Well, look, Arsenal have got a big squad now, and they've got a deep squad full of quality. What that sometimes can bring, though, is players who perhaps become disgruntled because they're not playing as much. And the Arsenal boss said that yesterday. These are difficult conversations to have. His body language really changed when he was asked that question about leaving players out. For example, Ethan Nwaneri, Gabriel Martinelli weren't even in the matchday squad for the Community Shield last week. Such is the strength in depth in that Arsenal squad. He said, look, these are conversations, though, that need to happen. We have to be honest with these players about their game time or lack thereof of game time, because they have a responsibility for their development, especially those younger players within the group. Now, one good news, I guess, for Arsenal fans, a bit of clarity. Mikel Arteta was asked the confidence of keeping Miles Lewis-Skelly at the club, and he said 100%. So that feels like those rumours are put to bed. Even Nwaneri, it feels like the club would prefer a low move for the 19-year-old. We forget how young he still is, rather than a permanent deal away. Other players linked, Gabriel Martinelli, we'll see what happens with him, but I think Arsenal's preference will be to stay unless a big offer comes in, unless they can bring in a suitable replacement. But later in the press conference, he was asked about one of Arsenal's players last season who played a lot of games for the club, dipped off at the end of the season and has been linked to potential moves away. A lot of interest in him. That's Martin Zubimendi, and this was the Arsenal boss's response.
Subi, without a doubt, he was one of the best players for Arsenal last season. I mean, without him, we would never get into the position that we got in the last few weeks, and he deserves massive credit. He certainly credit from all of us, all the coaches, myself, and especially his teammates. We know that without him, we will never reach the level and the way that we competed throughout 10 months. At the end, yeah, he didn't play that much. He still plays some important minutes, but he didn't play that much, but no one can neglect the importance of what we did and how important he is for us.
He's talking about Martin Zubimendi. He's talking about the amount of minutes that he had to play. We know Declan Rice played 60-plus games last season, and then the World Cup exploits. Martin Zubimendi appeared in the final of the World Cup for Spain as well, 55 games. He said it's just not possible for these players to play that many games season on season. Well, they've got the depth now to be able to cover that. They've got the depth to be able to spread that load around. Now it's about how Mikel Arteta communicates to his players to ensure they're happy playing fewer games, but then he's able to get them at that elite peaking period while they're playing as well. But look, it all boils down, though, doesn't it, really, to tonight. And tonight is the start of a new Premier League season, a new Premier League era for Arsenal. They're no longer the hunters. They are the hunted. They're looking to defend their crown for the first time in 22 years. And they start that right here at the Emirates Stadium tonight when they take on Coventry.
James, thank you very much for the moment. And John, I just want to pick up on something that James was saying there in terms of the way that Arsenal have strengthened their squad and the number of high-quality players, essentially, that Mikel Arteta has got at each position. Obviously, it sends out a huge statement to the rest of the Premier League, but how much of a management challenge is it for Arteta to keep all those players happy?
Yeah, James alluded to it there. It is, But the beauty is they have got a lot of games. They are going to go for every competition they're in this season. So balancing the rest and the load of the players with kind of their personality and desire to play, that's tough. But he's not new to this, They're champions. They've done this before. They went deep into their two main competitions last year, obviously, with the Champions League and the Premiership. So I think players coming in will understand that. There are lots of opportunities for them to impress. It's a great stage. And clubs need to continually rebuild. They can't rest on their laurels. They have to keep pushing forward because they are the hunted.
Yeah, I mean, you know what you're buying into as well if you're joining Arsenal this summer. And just how important is that squad depth? Like you say, they're going to be fighting on all fronts. They got so close to the Champions League as well last season. If they want to go one step further and defend a Premier League title and win a Champions League. Well,
as we were discussing about Zubimendi, he was exhausted last season. We saw Declan Rice in the World Cup absolutely exhausted. So it's clear they needed reinforcements. If they want to go that next step, OK, they played in the final, but they need to be able to compete with your PSGs and your Real Madrids and whoever's going to be there again this year. So I think having extra bodies in the door is really going to help them.
Just how hard is it for a club to defend a Premier League title?
Well, there's very few that have actually done it. So it's clearly hard. Obviously, Man City won four on the bounce. United have done it, of course. But I think that's the key. You can't rest on your laurels. It's Alex Ferguson famously said, we'd celebrate winning the league, and then the next day they're working again towards the following season. And I think it's clear that Arsenal and Arteta are doing exactly that this year.
Arteta was saying yesterday, and James just reminded us, that he's adamant that Miles Lewis-Skelly will be staying an Arsenal player. He talked as well about how important it is to really nurture and look after academy products. Just how important is it that a club like Arsenal, and any club really, keeps hold of their young academy products?
Yeah, I think it's critical. They're the lifeblood of the club. They know the club inside out. I think, with Lewis-Skelly, I think it was a strange one when people were linking him with Manchester United. I know Manchester United fans who were like, yeah, we'll take him in a heartbeat. So I think having that kind of core that knows the club inside out, and it doesn't necessarily need to be academy graduates, it could be players that have been there for a considerable length of time. They're the leaders in the club, they know everybody in the club, and they can help the new signings settle in as well, which is really important.
Martin Zubimendi is also a player that Arteta publicly defended yesterday after his form dipped towards the end of the season. Like you just said, he looked utterly exhausted. He was replaced by Lewis-Skelly in that sort of starting lineup. But could you see him now fighting for his place, or will he be looking elsewhere?